Carla and Louis from Games, Brains and a Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for sure. And it's the Nasties, and we are touching upon what might be the worst on the list to date, or just might be one of the more unique ones. I almost want to sort of say, you have to see this movie to believe it.
Yeah.
I think it's so fucking out there, so absurdly stupid, particularly once you know the backstory around it and how this even exists and why it even exists. Once you know that, it's almost required watching. Yeah. I do urge you to see Snuff, because it is one of the most unique of the 72 video Nasties. 1975, so we are going back a bit here, but that's debatable already.
Yeah.
Because of the situation surrounding it. So this is infamous for one thing more than anything else. And it is the absurd publicity stunt done to promote it by the producer and distributor Alan Shackleton. Yes, this is a rare thing we're going to do in these video series. We're going to actually talk about a producer and distributor more than, say, the director and writer, because that's where the difficulties fall in. It's what he did and how he chose to promote this movie, and what Snuff actually is, that it makes for such a fascinating watch. Put it this way, we spent the entire movie going, huh?
What is this?
What? And then we got to the ending and went, what the fuck just happened? And then found out the details. Didn't know about it before. I'd heard about it. It rung true. Once I read up on it and was like, oh yeah, I'd heard about this movie. I'd heard about this story. That's when it kind of clicked and made so much more sense. And be knowing that, I think it makes it a better movie to watch to a degree. To a degree. Yeah, but it is fucking terrible. It was originally titled The Slaughter and told a story of a cult that goes on a murder spree. Very much like the Manson family. Yeah, and we didn't know a lot of details beforehand, and about 3/4 of the way through we went, they're not. Yeah. They're not. So we quickly checked to remind ourselves what date and time those horrible events took place, the Manson murders, and saw that, yeah, this movie was likely very much inspired, or at least ripping off that story. But Shackleton got hold of The Slaughter and decided to tack on a new ending that suggested we were witnessing a real life murder. That is the part where you go, what?
Yeah.
What? A real life snuff film. That was how they decided to market it. And Shackleton even went as far as to hire protesters to attend screenings of the film. Wow! Wow! I don't know if I want to applaud it or just be like, what the fuck were you thinking?
I don't know, some of these stories are quite interesting, because nowadays, like, you can't, everything's going to be poo-pooed by the internet.
Oh, I mean,
and this kind of like, I think like the Blair Witch one was kind of like on the fringes of it, because we had internet, but it was pretty shit internet.
We weren't broadband, or at least up to that, the high cleverness we got now.
Yeah.
We'll use the wrestling term, kayfabe is dead. Yeah. It is well and truly dead. But it worked, of course, 1975. This promotion idea worked, and the film made a ton of money before it was pulled and investigating, resulting in the truth behind it being revealed 1 year later, 1976. It's not a snuff movie. And, truth be told, anyone who watched it knew it. That's what it required. And in classic idiot fashion, people protested it. People made a stink about this movie, having never actually seen it. Just more for the marketing more than anything else. But once you watch it, like, no, that acting is so terrible. The effects are so bad. The dubbing is so poor. Probably up there as the worst dubbing we have ever seen in a movie. There's no attempt. No. Not even an attempt to try and make things match here at all. Voices carry on for an extra 10 seconds after the dialogue. The mouths have stopped moving. It doesn't match. They don't match the characters. It is absurd. But, of course, people didn't watch it. They just went out and went boom, 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 you know. The famous people behind the DPP, people like Mary Whitehouse and all that, famously, of course, part of the whole reason why that fell apart, as it eventually did, was when she revealed that a movie that she was protesting, I can't remember the name of which one it was in particular, she'd never actually seen. And it's like, well, there you go. That's how you're going to behave. This is what it is. So it didn't take long for this to fall apart. This is no Cannibal Holocaust. This is no director being dragged into court. No having to break contracts for the actors to have to reveal that, no, they weren't killed. To be fair, Cannibal Holocaust is a 10 times better example of what could have been a snuff movie compared to Snuff itself.
That one felt a lot more like, you could see the question marks. This is just, no.
But I think we're both in agreement. Well done for what you did. Well done for what you tried to do, you insane person.
I think it's quite interesting. I wonder if there's like a book on like marketing campaigns for films and stuff like that to see what people actually.
You want me there's nasty books and stuff like that? Do you know what I mean? We're two amateurs talking our way through this list. Go all the way back to episode 1. That's a couple of years ago, and I think we've improved since then with pulling the details out. But ultimately, we're just simply viewers who watched it, picked up a bit of detail, and wanted to talk through the 72 films. But of course, exactly part of the reason why it's under 70 films is regardless of that being revealed in 76, that did not stop it running headfirst into the DPP, and it ended up on the nasty list in the UK, prosecuted and banned. Incredible. But it was eventually released in 2003, completely uncut, because as I said in another video, along comes a person going, are we seriously banning this? Let me just, let's behave here.
Watch it anyway.
Such notoriety means quality hardly matters. I think I said this at the start. It's so notorious, you're going to check it out. You should check it out because it's so absurd. But if you want to see what all the fuss was about, you're going to have to watch it regardless if someone tells you not to. I think that's very important because we're going to say this. It's terrible. Don't watch it, but do. Even ignoring the attached ending, Snuff is nonsensical and boring. Basically, we have a group of psychotic women who, oh my god. Now, we did say this about halfway through, where we were like, is it really fair to judge the acting when it's the dialogue and the dubbing that is such a problem? But to be fair, the facial expressions and mannerisms are awful. So you can put the two and go, yeah, that is terrible. You literally, your mannerisms, your facial expressions, what you're doing on the screen is so disengaging. It's terrible. But then you, like I said, you attach it to the fucking goddamn dialogue and the dubbing, and you've just got this whirlwind, this storm of absolute horror. These women basically, mostly here, they take the tops off at regular intervals. That's it though. Like you never get anything else.
No, just titties.
Titties and a bit of ass here and there. But they're under a spell of a man who calls them Satan, but not actually said like Satan. Satan, which I presumed it was Satan spelt like that. So when I found Satan in the credits, I said to you, oh, it's Satan. And you went, yeah, obviously. And I was like, why would you get obviously? No, Satan.
I got that, but I always thought it sounded like the vegan equivalent of, do you know that chicken is, that chicken, it's Satan.
Okay, all right.
It made me think of that, and I was like, yeah, because he's a pretty poor cult leader, so it was like...
Fair enough. This guy's played by Enrique Laratelia, uncredited. Now, this is super important. Although you can get the full cast on IMDb and places like that, everybody is uncredited. Snuff movie. So you're not going to have credits, are you? Of course. But basically, these women, they go around causing trouble and occasionally being punished by Satan or the other sisters for transgressions. We kind of start off this way. We get a really long rip-off of Born to be Wild. The track and the motorbike. Remember. And then they run into one of their sisters who's a drug addict and they beat her up and punish her and shoot her. Which she just kind of brushes. She's holding out on them. But sometimes it doesn't even make sense what they're punished for. There's a scene later on where one woman is being held down with the lighting changed completely to give it like a dusk look. But obviously they did it during the day and just put a fucking filter over it, so it's really terrible. And then Satan has sex with her on that table. Like, a lot of the time, it just doesn't make any sense. We just never see. Or sometimes we never even hear about. We just cut, and apparently one of them did something. Okay, all right then. But elsewhere, the bulk of the movie surrounds aspiring actress Terry, played by Mirtha Massa, uncredited, of course. She wants to be a star, and she wants to make it on her own, much to the chagrin of her boyfriend, partner, lover. I don't fucking know what you call Max. What do you call Max? They seem to be in a relationship, but they seem to be a long distance relationship. But then they're together, and he wanted to come live and stay with him, but she's kind of like, no, because basically he's got money, a lot of money, and he's saying, look, I can look after you. And she's like, no, I want to make it on my own, even though she's got a shitty agent, and she's struggling for parts, and she doesn't want to do nudity, for example, but that seems to be a thing she's having to do. So it's kind of like, okay, I mean, that in itself, I suppose that's a well-told part of the story, that we get all of that. Yeah,
I think that's quite pretty clear.
Yeah.
And like the guy, her agent she's with, she's kind of quite flirty with on and off, isn't she?
Yeah,
we thought they were together.
Yeah, this is actually really fucking annoying because she constantly causes, she basically in one scene will be telling him to back off and leave her alone, but in the other she's being so flirtatious to him, like kissing him in the neck, hugging him, stuff like that. And I know, of course, that's not a fucking excuse for him, but he doesn't get like abusive or nasty or anything like that. Like at one point he goes in for a kiss. And I was kind of like, I feel like she's giving him such mixed signals.
Yeah.
You kind of, she's like, oh no, I'm not interested, that kind of thing. But then the next scene, like the Mardi Gras scene, she's all like, oh, like that to him.
Yeah.
I'm like, which is it? No wonder he's baffled.
She wants to make it on her own, but she also wants her agent to be on a leash.
Yeah, that Mardi Gras scene, I might as well mention it now. Using stock footage, repeated stock footage.
Oh God, the same scene was repeated over and over again, and it was. I mean, they did try to kind of blend a scene of just them two and like Mardi Gras.
Because we cut to like a sort of room or an area, a backdrop area, where there was a couple of people dancing around.
Yeah.
So it did. You're right. You'd argue they tried to blend it well enough.
But the longer you show that scene, the longer you can go, well, that's clearly not the same fucking...
It goes on over 5 minutes. Over 5 minutes of cutting back to the same dancers and stuff like that.
Music,
yeah, and we should note as well, it's very old stock footage. So in that footage, there are some stuff that you would not fly by today's standards. There are some very racially insensitive imagery in that.
Yeah.
There is. But bear in mind, this was 1975 when this was put together, the slaughter. So, you know, times thankfully have changed. But yeah, watching it, I'm getting that repeat footage of one particular thing. If you know, you've seen it, you probably know what we're talking about. Each time we were like, man, that does not feel okay by today's standards. But of course, eventually it is Max and Terry who will suffer the ire of this cult. I don't even want to talk anymore about the plot there because most of it's nonsensical. Eventually, Terry agrees to go hang out with Max after her agent is killed and stuff like that. And that's cool and all that. But then we randomly seem to cut to some time later. The cult have decided to attack the house. Yeah. Don't know why.
Manson-esque.
Yeah, very Manson-esque, but done during the day as well. And then suddenly we're like, oh, Terry's in bed with Max's father?
Yeah.
And she's pregnant now?
Nothing
we were
explained.
baffled by that.
What?
Particularly as the lead into that is Max sitting outside with his friend, trying to get his friend to agree for Max to be allowed to sleep with his wife. His friend is agreeing to it, but only if he's allowed to watch. Max says no. Max and his friend's wife go off to like a sort of roofless building nearby, start to get it on in the bed, while the drunk friend climbs on the roof to then watch from above. And bear in mind, this is like that, then followed to Terry being in bed with Max's father. We were like, what the actual fuck?
Because it was never implied earlier that there's any kind of lead-ins like that. And the only interaction that Terry had with the dad was where he was trying to mansplain stuff to her.
Oh my God, probably the dumbest, most daringly offensive part of the movie, which is when she meets him and he basically sells weapons to foreign countries. And they make a fucking comparison to Nazism and what Nazis did to the Jewish people. And trying to sort of, not justify it, but make a connection between that and say something with Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. We sat in there going, what the fuck is going on with this?
Yeah, why are you dropping that into this kind
of
film?
It is the only time it exists. Yeah. Because he's German, that's right.
Yeah.
He's German. They're from Germany. They talk about Berlin a few times. Yeah. And that's why she brings that up. My God, this movie, it's insane.
It's really random.
It's really random. It's insane. And we were like, are they really doing a comparative?
And that's the thing they explain. They always say where someone's going to be and how long for.
Yeah.
So every character, you knew exactly their travel plans for the next few years. But then the things you want explained, nope, don't bother that. But like, there was no interaction of like, the dad was a swinger, Max was a swinger, so they got partners.
And
then it cuts to like, oh, he wants to watch his wife and his mate cop off, and his partner's shacked up with his dad.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so incoherent that as much as we can speak our synopsis and make it sound coherent, it's not in the slightest. It's irrational how this story is told. There are so many times throughout where you're just going, what?
Yeah.
What happened here? And the film changes direction. It skips important parts in the story. It's almost funny. Like, looking back now, I can laugh and go, insane. But watching it, it's incredibly dragging. Because you're just like, I don't get it, I don't follow, I don't understand what's going on, I'm trying to pick up the pieces. And then, of course, you get to that fucking ending. We already talked about the Mardi Gras, and agreeing to have sex with a wife. These are just two of the most random parts of it. But all of it is wrapped up in the ugly visuals it has. It's very ugly looking. Horrible effects. Yeah. Horrible effects. And, of course, we go back to it. Some of the worst dubbing you'll ever see. Not just in a nasty, but maybe ever full stop. Which brings us to it. The ending. We've got to talk about it because it's its own thing. It exists in its own universe. It's incredible. It's head scratching if you don't know what happened beforehand. So basically, the people making the film we've been watching finish, yet every actor on screen is suddenly different.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So like they finished the part where Terry gets killed in the bed, and then it's cuts to the filming of it.
Yeah.
Yet the people that are playing Terry and all that, they're different people. So there you go, you're already lost. Of course it's different people because it's a different fucking film.
Yeah.
It's a different set of actors. You weren't going to be able to get the people from the slaughter involved. Of course you weren't.
No.
So that in itself. But they then basically, this crew go on to slaughter one of their own crew members in really gory fashion. So they hold her down and rip her guts out. Yeah. Does it look real?
No.
I don't even know how anyone back then could have thought it looked real. Is it gory and violent? Yes, because they pull the guts out and hold it up. And I think, I can't remember, does he chew in it or he holds it up like that? So it is quite gory. Yeah. It is that. I do get that. But the effects are so poor. And the reaction of the cast, the laughing and the fake kind of trying to force that we're psychotic is so bad that it's hard to believe anybody could have been convinced this was real.
Yeah.
It really
like
is
the
insane.
Colour of guts as well, like.
It's that, that's very old school Blood Feast style, bright red, where it's food colouring and it doesn't look great. It's got all these elements to it. But we were just like, what just happened?
Like,
what just happened?
Because we've seen it now. I'm sure we've seen elements of that in other films since, where like you go from that and then you're taken into it. Like I think League of Gentlemen did.
Oh, I mean, there's been incredible
and they
movies
did like
that have done that. Yeah,
a Christmas special where it kind of went from that to real, and that was really well done. But I mean, like to convince people that it's real. I always feel like things like doing interviews and stuff, and then people take the microphones off, and then it goes to something a bit more sinister.
Yeah, with mockumentary. You're thinking mockumentary.
And like Cannibal Holocaust was done like that as well, wasn't it?
Well, Cannibal Holocaust is the star baby of doing that style more than anything else. But here's the thing. I'll come back to this. I will praise the idea and risk behind it and what you wanted to do. Here's what realistically should have happened. Make the whole movie as this. The problem is he's grabbed an ending, made an ending and attached it to a film that does not fit. That does not make sense. It does not feel... It feels disconnected. That's the important thing. That's why it's terrible. If it had been... Imagine it had been exactly what we saw, but it was the correct actors.
Yeah. Or
that aspect.
Cut to the cult members being the film crew. Like helping out on set or just backstage and like then... And
maybe spend a little bit longer showing us everyone like, that's a wrap. Everyone's standing around and copying all that, and then we lead to that. Do you see what I mean? Like, that might have worked. Because it's a different film with this attached ending, that it doesn't work. So, that's ultimately what it comes down to. Is it shocking? Is it notorious? Yes, I think it shocked us. I think it still does to a certain degree, because it felt like it comes out of nowhere. And it's so... Compared to the violence and gore that occurs in the rest of the movie, it's so different much a step above. It really, really is. You can see the difference between quality as... Well, that notoriety will decide if you want to watch this or not. But you cannot ask me to tell you it's a good film. It's a terrible film, probably in the lower tiers of video nasty quality, but in the upper tiers of memorability.
Yes,
I will never forget this movie. If someone ever said, "Oh, you ever seen 1975 Snuff?" I'll be like, "Yeah, oh my fucking god, I would say it was that." You know?
I think another point of view I've always remembered. The cult leader, I mean, I know obviously some of them are pretty hideous and it's just like the way they talk to people, their power, but I thought some of them had to be a little bit more attractive, a little bit more, I don't know, inveigled to... I don't know about,
I don't agree with the visual kind of thing.
No.
I think there's, because I think there's also an aspect of outward, inner beauty if you want, in that aspect, and it's about enthralling to you more than anything else, Look at some of the cult leaders that have existed in real life without getting too heavy and stuff like that. Someone like Jim Jones, not exactly, cast them on good looks and stuff like that. It's about the charisma. Charles Manson was charismatic, more than looks.
There was no sex, wasn't overtly sexual elements to them. Whereas like Manson is all a bit of like a free-for-all, free love kind of cult. That's what I mean.
Right, but I disagree. I think Snuff wanted to or the Slaughter at least, wanted to do that, but always was too tame for it. Think about the swimming pool scene. Where he's in there getting sexy with a girl, topless and all that. The others come along and strip off and jump in as well. Yeah. And they're basically all grabbing him, touching him and kissing him.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. They'll run out when they're topless. They punish one of their own and he follows it up by having sex with her.
Yeah.
That does exist, but they were too tame to go too far with it.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I know what you're suggesting. You basically what Lou wanted was a massive orgy.
No, I just wanted to believe, like...
I believe it. I believe it's there.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I suppose not being a cult, a reference.
Yeah. You're going to check this one out, whether we tell you to or not. You should, just for the notoriety and just to connect the dots and see the absolute insanity that is in the movie. But it is a terrible one of the worst nasties on this list. It's Snuff, the 1975 horror movie. You know what to do. You got any thoughts on it? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?